I was in high school, so I tore my Achilles. So I ran track since I was like, I don't know, 6th grade. So what are you, like 11, 12, whatever that is. I started getting recruited when I was a sophomore by all these like big schools. And I was like super excited because college wasn't really something I was thinking about. I don't love school that much. So I was like, oh, I'll go run track so that I get and then I'll get an education. Your junior season is like your most important. So I had really bad, again, I took 3 weeks off, ran the trials for the 100-meter, and pretty much couldn't walk afterwards, but decided I'll be fine. And I gotta try and run the semifinals because you have to in order to move on to the next event. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna give it a try. I think I'll be okay. It was like sore, we iced it, stretched it, did whatever we needed to do. It felt okay while I was warming up. And then right out of the blocks, my Achilles snapped and I blacked out and I hit the ground and I actually broke my collarbone at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, so I woke, so it's funny because everybody asked me like what it felt like, and I don't know what it felt like because I blacked out. And when I woke up, I didn't even really, my ankle was kind of just like hanging, but it was my collarbone that I felt. And I was like, my shoulder hurts. And I guess I didn't even process that something happened to my ankle because they carried me off and I went into the ambulance, went to the hospital, and that's when they told me that I broke my collarbone and my Achilles. I tore my Achilles and broke my collarbone at the same time. So at first it scared me because I was like, I didn't really have an identity outside of track. It's like everybody knew, that's what everybody knew me as. It's how I planned to go to college. So it was just like, I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not gonna be able to run. I'm not gonna be able to sprint. I don't understand. I'm not. So at first it was just like, wow, this is kind of hit me and it was kind of scary. But then once my collarbone healed and I started to like do the gradual casting, I was like, no, I'm gonna come back. I was like, there's no reason I can't. Like I could train hard and I will be fine. And I just like was determined, because then it was like everybody else saying, oh, you're never gonna come back. You're never gonna be because then once I got through the summer, and so they do gradual casting for an Achilles. So every like 3 weeks they put a new cast on you, and they try and continuously move your foot up until it's at a 90-degree angle. And then you can start like physical therapy. So I started physical therapy in like September, and that's when I started going on my college visits. I went from basically getting offered full scholarships to these huge D1 schools to like, oh, we could pay for your books, or we could pay for, just the room and board, or maybe just this or just that. But there's always room to get more if you perform the way you were supposed to. And that was like the driving factor. I was like, I am going to show you guys that I can come back, and I'm going to be just as fast, if not faster. And this isn't going to change, and you're going to regret pushing me to the side and not giving me that chance. One of the other high school coaches brought up Delaware, University of Delaware, and was like, it's an up and coming program. They're small D1, but he knew the coach. The coach, Wendy's great, reach out to her. So I reached out to her and I went down there for an official visit, and they offered me a full scholarship, and I signed that day. And then that was before spring track. So spring track is really when I started to run again, and my times were just as fast. And we get to like sectionals, and whenever I won sectionals, and I'm moving on to the next one where I MOC, or Meet of Champions, which is basically states. And I had like 3 other coaches come up to me. I think it was like Monmouth, Pitt, and somebody else. I'm like, oh, we heard you haven't signed. Did you sign yet? And I was like, yeah, I signed. I signed a few months ago before I was running these fast times again, because Wendy had faith. She knew. She was like, I know you're going to come back. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to put my faith in you, and it ended up paying off. So prior to her, it was crazy because it was over like a couple weeks span. I had just spoke to another coach for Kansas, and they wanted me, I'm going to get choked up. They wanted me to run and videotape it so they could like analyze my running gait. So I did that, and he basically told me that I had peaked and I wasn't going to get any faster. And so they weren't going to invest anything in me. So I was like literally in my bathroom, like at my parents' house, crying. I was like, this is it. This is the end. Like, I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard to come back, and I'm putting so much work in, and like, it's just not going to pay off. And then like 2 weeks later, I met with Wendy, and she was like, that guy was like full of shit. Like, she's like, I see that you have so much more potential. And sorry.
No, it's all good.
She's like, I see you have so much more potential, and I'm ready, you know, to take those steps with you and to bring you into the program. And then I qualified for regionals as a freshman, and I was the first Delaware athlete to do that. And we saw the coach at regionals, and he just like didn't even say anything to me. And I just like walked past him, and it was just like an amazing moment, because it was like, you literally told me I was done. I was washed up and I should basically just give up. And here I am a year later. I'm going to be competing against, you don't have any girls in this race. I'm here. I could have been here for you, but I'm not, so it was awesome. Wendy was, my college coach was amazing.
I mean, if you had to really say anything just about moving forward in mindset and how important it is to really recognize that you do have something within you, what would you tell somebody?
One, don't get comfortable. And two, you can always, like, that was one thing that got me, is I knew I could always do more. One, I didn't want to get comfortable. I didn't want to, like, I wasn't ready to just be, like, go to college and, like, be a student, like, and not, like, I needed that, I had that drive that, like, I needed to keep going. And then, like I said, you're just capable of so much more than you might think originally. And that's what that showed me, was that, like, yeah, I was always fast and I was always, you know, a good athlete, but naturally this made me really put the work in, and it showed me that I could do it, I guess. Like you said, from starting from scratch. And then I was capable of more than because if I had not gone through that, I may not have worked as hard. I may not have trained as hard, because it was like, oh, I'm always going to be good. I'm always going to be fast, whatever. But then this forced me to be like, you're capable of so much more. Like, look what happens when you put the time and the effort in to do more. I needed to work so much harder to do that stuff. But because I had already kind of started from scratch before I knew that I could, I was like, okay, you can do this. You can learn the progressions. You just have to put the work in, just like you did before. You could do it again, just with different movements and a different sport.